So last night, or I guess you could say early this morning, SAP reported its most recent earnings. And the company, I want to focus my commentary on the company's transformation to cloud. So, SAP is a German company. So while you and I generally talk about things, if we do talk in accounting, we talk GAAP and non-GAAP. In Germany, they use IFRS, which is an international standard for how they report. And so just as we talk about it, if I mention that, that's what I'm talking about. But Pat, the long story short is that, the company is doing really well in its cloud transformation. And when you and I met with Christian Klein, I think you even met with him again more recently, that was really the story that he was focusing in on, is that this is a company with a history, a traditional sort of software licensing business that knew it needed to make a big pivot to cloud subscription. SAP has one of the largest customer bases in the world for running, traditional business software, systems of record, ERP, lots of acquisitions in the company that's taken into other areas, like supply chain procurement. But, they had a pretty strong result on the with cloud revenue growing 24%, which was up sequentially. And for S/4HANA, its cloud revenue was impressively up by 77%. So for a lot of people that are making comments like companies aren't converting to S4 in the cloud, it's wrong. Clearly it's wrong. They're also seeing their backlog grow. Their cloud backlog grew 25%. And their cloud gross profit was up 28%. So, this is really, really interesting. But Pat, the company is executing on what it's committing in terms of its performance right now. Now, this is another area where the company has some convincing to do. Okay. And what do I mean by that? So here you hear me basically rattling off some really good results. And by the way, the results are global for SAP. Their cloud revenue growth, just quickly across America, EMEA, and Asia Pac, all 23% or higher. So they're seeing strong growth across all of the different markets. They're seeing their cloud and software revenue growing by 10%. They're seeing their, as I mentioned, the S/4HANA 77%. And so, Pat, I guess here's the question mark. You got the old and the new. And so you're at this inflection point, and the company, if you're thinking about, as an investor, or you're thinking about as a customer about whether or not to get further behind SAP, it's where's the momentum? And I think if you look at the numbers, the momentum are the vast majority of SAP clients are in fact either exploring or in process right now of moving their workloads over to SAP. Now, probably the most, I guess you could call it negative of the earnings report came to, it kind of sounds like the company softened its guidance a little bit. It in my opinion, was probably being very pragmatic about the market conditions. We continue to see, I would say, better results than expected, given the horror stories that we were hearing that the market was going to endure. And so the question mark kind of comes down to, if you're a leader, is do you underpromise and overdeliver, or do you overpromise and underdeliver? And so my sort of read on this thing is SAP has seen good results, especially in the cloud business, which I've already reiterated a few times here. But there are some concerns about macro headwinds that are going to continue. And I think the company's playing it cautiously about what's coming next. Having said that, I think there's a good opportunity, if the macro stays a little bit better, as it has, surprisingly, that the company could continue to outperform. Also, in a tougher environment, companies are going to try to make more of what they have, do more with those current investments, and doing something like a migration to SAP Cloud as opposed to a full lift and shift to another platform is going to be more realistic in these current times, which could be a sticky factor for SAP, which could add value to the company as well. So overall, like I said, good quarter, focusing in on the strengths here. Certainly would like to see the guide going the other way, but I also appreciate when a company can be realistic about its situation and then work hard to outperform.
Dan, this SAP is like the other durable companies that we talk about, right? You can't just decide to turn off your ERP system. That just doesn't happen. It is at the center of your entire business if you're into manufacturing, logistics, transportation, other types of businesses out there. So you're just not going to do that. The fact that they're cranking out, they have a 25% backlog increase, says everything to me that I need to know. And I think that 25%, albeit greater than the 22% in revenue in Q4 for cloud revenue, that's huge. And I think they are cranking out numbers that are super, super good. So I'm not concerned at all about that. I talk to a Fortune 500 enterprise probably once every week. And I would say every other week is a conversation with somebody who is doing ERP consolidation, doing changing their ERP vendor, or taking it to the cloud. And what they tell me is, hey, don't put this into digital transformation, right? This is not digital. This is me getting my bedrock solid so I can do digital transformation on top of that. So yeah, I'll be interested. The guide was lower than you would have expected, but I don't see this being some major event where it goes significantly lower. I do like some of the things the company is doing though. SAP DataSphere, right? You and I covered that a few pods ago. Really offering one place for customers to keep their data, and then leveraging, best of breed data companies to access that. I'd love to see Cloudera in there, by the way. And then, I talked with CEO Christian Klein about Grow with SAP, which is taking this into the mid-market. When I talked to him, I really felt like, he was saying the right thing, because when it comes to medium business, it has to be simpler. There have to be less switches that the customer has to be able to turn on themselves, and there have to be a lot more integrations. And I'm going to do a deep dive on this when I get the time, but I do know that he knows what the company has to do to compete, let's say, more closely with somebody like a NetSuite, right? And the interesting part is, if you're a medium-sized business and you start with SAP, it's going to be, if you turn into a big company, it's going to be a lot easier to keep using SAP. The alternative, right, would be using a NetSuite and then moving to Fusion if you're on an Oracle. So I think their value proposition is compelling. I think they're going to have to do a lot of work convincing, and maybe picking up some different channel partners who know how to seamlessly integrate it and work with smaller businesses who just don't have the resources to be able to do something like an ERP. Also talked about business AI, right? I need to dive in and get more of the details on this. But again, they're saying the right things, which is taking AI across the portfolio. And I think very similarly to, let's say, an IBM or an Oracle, you don't want to do this willy-nilly. You don't want to put experiment on it. You do want to shut down your manufacturing. You want to shut down your logistics and warehousing? Probably not. So it's got to be right when it comes out. And there can be no leakage of data related to the training. So, the message that I got was stay tuned.